Hello. Yeah. Perfect. So, yeah, I was saying that I have had an opportunity to work with Kerala Startup Mission, but the Trivandrum office, so visited there. They did some meetup cafe event and then some other things. But really glad to be here. I was here on a personal event, but then I spoke to Arun. I said, why don't we take this opportunity? Anyways, 3 years we have not been able to meet in person. So now every physical event is a more special one. That's when you start appreciating small things in life, right? And as an entrepreneur, I think that's what you always appreciate, how small things can lead to very large ones. I'll talk about some very interesting stories, how one small introduction led to $100 million round, how one small introduction made someone a celebrity overnight. So very interesting. I'll first start with a very quick introduction. My name is Ravi Ranjan. I come from a very small village in Jharkhand. When I was growing up, um, I had a lot of challenges around me. So my place was the highest Naxal affected area in the country. And at that point of time, there was nothing which you can do about it. A lot of problems, no electricity, no education, a lot of, basic challenges which you take for granted, they were not available. And that always kept me thinking that why it has to be like that. And that's when I really kind of, please. No, that's all right. That's when I kind of really kept asking myself question, how can we change it? Unfortunately, that time I never had access to a mentor. There was nothing like what we have today. No LinkedIn, no Facebook, no internet. So what do? You just keep thinking. Interestingly, when I was in class 10th, I got an opportunity to go to Chandigarh. That's in North India, one of the largest city. And that's where I first time saw how development looks like. And that kept me thinking, how can I bring the same to my state, to my personal life, and also people around me? I thought if I become a journalist, I'll be able to solve a lot of problems because as a journalist, you'll be able to write, talk things and bring attention to people. I studied journalism, became a journalist, started writing. My stories were very, how do I say, thought provoking, and it was something which a lot of people did not like. So my editor called me and he said that, Ravi, you can't be so blunt. You have to learn diplomacy. I said, but the job of a media person is to talk about what's reality, what's happening. But he said, doesn't work like that. That's when I realized that unfortunately, media is not anymore the fourth pillar of democracy. So I started my career as a radio jockey. Then I become a journalist, and then I quit. I said, I can't do this. And then, fortunately, uh, one small mistake led me to this world of entrepreneurship. So I had no idea what incubation, angel investment, entrepreneurship means. So I've never studied engineering. I've not done MBA. I'm a student of journalism and filmmaking. So that's what I've studied. But then a recruiter was reaching out to a person named Ravi Ranjan who was working with Angel Network, and I don't know how accidentally they reached out to me saying that we have an opportunity where one of the first incubator in the country is looking to have a person who can run the program. I said, sure. I mean, what does incubation mean? Then they said, you should know because your profile says that you have been part of that. I said, I thought at that moment, what if I have said no? I would have always been in media and in interesting industry. But I think that one small mistake led to something very interesting. I went for that meeting. So that was for Indian Angel Network, which was at that time one of the largest angel network in the country, and they used to do very interesting programs. So I started working there. For the first few months, I was just making myself familiar with uh, what is incubation, how does angel investment work. This is 2010, so it was not as sexy or as exciting as it is today. In 2010, if you go out and tell your parents that after finishing my college from like a good college MBA, I'm going to build a startup, they would have definitely said that something is wrong with this. In fact, I've heard stories, and I'm not kidding. There were few founders. One of the guy was about to get married, and when their in-laws asked, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm building an e-commerce company." Uh, they actually canceled the wedding, saying that because this guy could not get a job, he's trying to build a startup. So 2010 to 2022, things have changed crazy, right? I remember I was in the room when there were checks being written, first round of check to Zomato, happily unmarried. I have been very fortunate. I have had an opportunity to be mentored by people like Sanjeev Bikhchandani, Rajan Anandan, and all of that. So that's like the early story where I started. Over the last 10, 12 years, I have had an opportunity to work with a lot of investors, angel networks, entrepreneurs. So I worked for a couple of years at Indian Angel Network. I looked after the entire North India piece and all of that. And then I worked with a few other companies here and there. Then I moved to Hong Kong, worked with an international angel network. And then I got a very interesting opportunity to come back to India and be part of the 10,000 program at startup. That's where I met Arun. So Arun has been a very old friend and a colleague. At that point, NASCOM was the largest program, not only in country, but in the world in terms of entrepreneurship. So there's a very interesting connection. Um, Around 2013, 14, there were like some companies coming up and they were trying to do good, but there was a requirement of a community to be built. And that's what NASCOM did. They actually made a community and people really took pride in being part of that community. So one of the reasons why today's startup ecosystem is so vibrant, it's definitely NASCOM has a really huge role to play. In fact, I remember we had the 25th anniversary of NASCOM where our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, came and he asked NASCOM, what can we do to make it even further? So NASCOM team worked on a new draft and we created a policy for the country called Startup India Policy. So that was all consulted, designed by NASCOM. So again, we had a very interesting opportunity to be playing a very crucial part. Um, what has happened between 2015 and 2022 is that India has become now the third largest startup ecosystem. And why it's so important? Today in India, we have 100 plus unicorns. In fact, today a very interesting company became a unicorn. I don't know if you guys know, Physics Wala. It's a YouTube channel where the guy teaches physics, concept of physics. They raised $100 million round today, they became a unicorn, 1.2 billion. Can you imagine 10 years ago that a YouTube channel can have $1 billion in valuation? It's insane to think about it, but that's how the world is. The next 10 years is going to be about content creator. It's going to be about Web 3.0, which everyone is talking about right now. People don't know how it's going to turn out, but this is going to be the future. So coming back, why it's so important, this benchmark of being number 3 in the world and having 100 unicorn. In India today, we have around 150,000 startups, 1.5 lakh, 75,000 registered under DIPP, but obviously there are more than that. So I'm going to take 1.5 lakh. And then we have around 10,000 investors. Our closest competition, China and US. Can you guess how many startups are there in China? So in India, we have 1.5 lakh, 150,000. How many you think there are in China? Any wild guess? 5 lakh? Okay. 10? 1.5 million? Okay. Any more guesses? Arun, how do you think? How many think you? There are 30 million startups in China, close to the population of Nepal. Actually, more than that. 10,000 startups register every day in China. So when people come back, when people come and tell you, oh, there's a startup bubble, everything is saturated, tell them that, listen, it's not even started in India. A country of 1.4 billion people and 1.5 lakh startup is not even 1%. We are far away from where we are supposed to be. And still, we are number 3. So imagine, with being number 3, with so many limited startups, we have been able to solve some of the biggest problems, right? In education, in healthcare, in sanitation. So many life-changing stories are being created. So imagine your life today. When you wake up in the morning, you check news on InShots. You book an Uber to go to work. You book Make My Trip to book your flight. You use Swiggy throughout the day. You use Health Cart and PharmEasy and 1mg for your medicine. And then, when you're watching content, you are consuming it on Hotstar or Netflix or things like that. These are all, in a way, still you can say it's luxury, but eventually what's going to happen, these startups, which are going to be designed by all of you, are going to impact people's life every single day. There's a company called Blue Semi. It's from Hyderabad. What they have done is that they have built world's first and only device where you can collect blood sugar and 6 other vitals. You have to put your fingers on the device. That's it. It's not going to prick. Without pricking and without taking blood sample, it can give you 100% accurate result. Think about a life of a diabetic person. The person has to prick himself 10 to 20 times a day sometimes. Even a pre-diabetic person has to do that. You have pricks all across your finger. When we talk about startups, these are the kind of problems which need to be solved. I mean, everything else is also okay, but these are the stories which will impact people's life, right? And these things are happening in India today, right? So coming back, I was at NASCOM, and it was really, really fantastic. Initially, for the first year, I was in Kolkata, so I was responsible for East and Northeast India. Then I had an opportunity to move to Bangalore, and I met a lot of amazing founders in Bangalore. And then um, during that time, we used to work very closely with partners like Facebook, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Government of India, various state governments, international governments. So for me personally, I had an opportunity to work with all the stakeholders because we were not competing with anyone, we were collaborator. And that made me realize that as a collaborator, you can learn so much. And that's, uh, as a founder, you need to learn how to collaborate. You should also learn how to use your personal brand to really get things done for you. I'll talk more about that later. 2017, I thought that my role at NASCOM is done. I have done what I was supposed to do. At the same time, I started, whenever I used to get time, I used to travel and I used to train aspiring entrepreneurs and students on how to build a startup. Very happy to share with you that I have now trained 2 lakh students and entrepreneurs, 10,000 faculties, and 1,000 government officials on how to take entrepreneurship as a career option. So that was very interesting. That gave my career a completely different shift. I was selected for a very interesting program called IVLP by government of US. So every year they select around 10, 20 people from India and they bring them to US to be part of this exchange program. People like Narendra Modi, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, they all have been part of this program. So I went to US. There I had an opportunity to meet all the important stakeholders who are really changing the ecosystem. I came back to India, and in 2018 I started a consulting company which is now called Velocity One. I provide consulting to large corporates, investors, colleges, multiple governments on how to bring innovation and entrepreneurship in what they do every day. So very quickly to talk about my role at the moment. So I have this company, which is it's a B2B solution, Velocity One, where we work with accelerators, angels, and we help prepare their cohort for the next round of funding. Then I work with a lot of different clients. One of my clients is India's largest early stage investment network called Venture Catalyst. We have 4 different funds through which we have invested already $750 million in 300 plus startups. And currently we have an access to $400 million plus where we are investing in startups. So we are writing checks, almost one check every day. We have invested in some of the companies you might have heard, companies like Oyo Rooms, Beardo, Innovate, P-Safe, Shop Kirana, Ship Rocket, Vedantu, Bharat Pay, all of that. Um, One recent development has been that the royal family of Dubai reached out to me saying that we think India is a great opportunity and we want your help to find really good startups where we can collaborate with them, also invest in them. So the Al Maktoum family, which is the current ruler of Dubai and one of the most influential family in the world, I'm their official representative for India, where my job is to find really good startups, B2B and B2G focused, where they can take advantage of the royal family. So that's about my personal background, what I do and what I have been doing. One of the things which I call myself an entrepreneurship evangelist, and it's a very strong word. An evangelist is a person who spent their life on one particular cause, right? You know, who are called evangelist people. I believe my job, my purpose of life is to help entrepreneurs, and I'm very glad that I've been able to do that for a really long time. So talking about small things, how it can change to very interesting stuff. Last year I got an opportunity to design a very famous show for Sony, which is called Shark Tank India. So they reached out to me and they said, "Can you help us curate this entire program?" I personally don't like TV. The Indian TV, I really really hate it because, to be honest, the entire TV concept has ruined our generation, where they have created some really bad quality shows which doesn't talk about intellectual things. So I thought it's very interesting. Now is the time when country and the world should celebrate entrepreneurship. So it was very interesting. Last year I got a chance to design the entire show. I don't know if you guys have seen the show. It went very popular. Um, so yeah, that's about it. So at the moment I travel around 22 days a month across the country and outside, where I meet founders like you, try and help them raise their next round of funding, help them connect to next people. So talking about um, coincidences and small connections. So it's a very interesting story. On Shark Tank, there's a shark called Namita Thapar. Do you guys know? Have you seen her? A lot of memes around her. So it was the last phase of Shark Tank. We were about to launch in a couple of weeks from then, and shooting was supposed to start. She reached out to me through a connection where she wanted to recommend some of the startups who can apply to come on the show. That's what she wanted to do. But then we were speaking, and then suddenly I got this idea that she can really play a very interesting role of becoming a shark. So I offered it to her. She never expected because she had no background in it, and she said that okay, why not? She took the opportunity, and suddenly overnight she became a celebrity. So today everyone know her as one of the most popular shark on the show. But think about it, if she would have not taken that up, or if she would have said that I'm not an expert right now, it's not about developing that expertise overnight, but it's about, can you really follow an idea and keep on building on that, because as a human being we keep on learning every day. There's a very interesting story I want to share with you. There's a company called Palantir. It's one of the most advanced data science company in the world. um, Started in the US, and they do a lot of interesting stuff. One of the most interesting achievement of Palantir as a company um, is that their algorithm was used to track Osama bin Laden. So they used their software, which provided them a data point of around 74% accuracy that this house in Abbottabad might have Osama bin Laden. So the US Army, they used that data point, and with their instinct, they went out and they actually captured him. So Palantir, what is interesting about Palantir is that while it's a data science company, the founder is a major in philosophy. He's not a data scientist. So you might think that how come a philosophy major can build a data science company, which is the best in the world? It's about how you are able to bring the best people together. At the end of the day, you don't need to code to build a platform, right? You need to have the concept and the vision, what I want to solve. Again, some very interesting stories around it. I'm sure you guys have heard the story of Mansa brand. Mansa became a unicorn in 6 months. So from zero in revenue today to $1 billion in revenue in 6 months. How can you do it? When you have a really clear idea of what I'm trying to build and how am I going to acquire customers so that I can grow really, really fast. As a founder, one of the challenge a lot of people have is that on day one, you are not able to visualize how big your company is going to be a couple of months or maybe a year down the line. You are busy in operations as a founder. You're trying to put the team together. You're trying to raise capital. You're trying to get into operations every single day. One of the learning which I have personally observed, and we always share with our founders. So we have invested, we as in Venture Catalyst Group, we have invested in 300 plus company. As a founder, one of your major role is to be keep on raising fund continuously. You need to have really competent people who can take care of operations and take care of things which are taking a lot of your time. That's number one. Number two, you need to really well understand what is your market segment and how you're going to capture it. So Mansa is one interesting example. The founder of Mansa was earlier heading Mintra, and so he understood how e-commerce works. He understood how the big is the opportunity, and he came into a very interesting point. So I'm sure you guys know Mansa is based on a model called Thrashio. Thrashio is a model from the US where they started it for the first time, where they look at really good performing e-commerce players. It's like a e-commerce so on Amazon, you have multiple sellers, right? So you have this one small seller. Like in India, there's a very interesting story. There's a company called Wow Skin Sciences. So the founder started selling on Amazon apple cider vinegar. That was their only product. And they started selling, and people were buying, and they were very happy that our sales are growing and stuff. Suddenly, they started getting a lot of feedback, and the feedback was that since the time I have started consuming this vinegar, my hair growth and my nails have been really well. How about you build something on that particular line as well? They thought about it, they did some research, and they launched India's first Wow oil with onion properties in it. It became a number one seller. They launched another product with another organic product. Today, Wow Skin is one of the best performing seller on Amazon. Why I'm sharing this with you? Because brands like Mansa, what they do is that they take these brands like Wow. They will give the founder an exit, saying that listen, you have spent 5 years, you have put a lot of effort, take this 100 crore, go and have fun, maybe build something else. Then they take this brand, they rebrand it, and they relaunch it so that their sales can increase multifold. By doing this, Mansa has really, really become a really powerful company. It was already $1 billion company. Now they are positive as well, and they are going to make a lot of profit. So as a founder, you need to think about these two things importantly. And the third thing, which is very important, is that if you have an opportunity of scaling globally, try and do it very, very fast in the markets where you think you are really able to take advantage. I'll tell you the third story of this. So I have a friend, his name is Saket Modi. He's from Kolkata. And when he was very young, what he did is that in one of his exam, he hacked into his school computer and, got the question paper. Obviously, he was scolded for that, but that uh, gave him and his parents and teachers confidence that he can do something well. He built a, cyber security company, ethical hacking, called Lucidius. They worked on NPCI, the UPI, which we use every day, to protect the entire UPI transaction process. Become really popular. And then he figured out that what he's building is nice, but his product would be appreciated more in West, which is US and Europe. So he moved to US and Europe. Now he has a company registered in US. He raised money from some really large VCs who are really popular in the payment space. Today, he's one of the biggest name when it comes to cybersecurity product. So he figured out that what I'm doing is very good. India is a good market, but if I go to a particular market, I'm going to be even bigger. So that's the third thing which you need to figure out. If your product is ready to go to a global market, try and build it in a way that you can launch it as soon as possible, because global market can give you really good validation, and it's also going to add a lot of value to your revenue. Um, Okay, I mean that's what I thought here very quickly with you. There are a lot of other stories, but before I do that, I would love to listen from some of you. What are you guys doing, and how has been your experience so far? I know COVID has not been kind to everyone, so some of the physical businesses might have suffered, but that's another interesting story. So a lot of people actually use this uh, opportunity of COVID to really transform their businesses digitally, and who are able to do it, they survived really well. So how about some of you share what are you guys doing, what stage you are right now, and then we'll take the conversation to the next level. Sounds good, ma'am? What are you doing? Yeah, yeah, you. I think I spoke to a founder who's based out of Canada right now. They're trying to do something similar in this space, but again, it's a very interesting opportunity what you're building. With content becoming a more vital part of sales process. So as a small business, you are a content creator by default. You can't do it without it. And one of the biggest challenge is to do the cataloging, do the product shoot, and then have really right description. There are companies who are spending billions of dollars on that. So I think what you're doing is very, very interesting. Please sit down. We have invested in a company called Videoverse. It was earlier called Touch.ai. It's a very interesting company. What they do is that they have an algorithm through which broadcasters can get editing of a particular clip in real time without doing the editing. It's like the software does the editing. One of their client is IPL. So the current IPL which got over, if you were watching it on TV or mobile, the highlights and the key moments, it was all generated by AI using Videoverse technology. So they are partnering with IPL, NBA, FIFA, and all the large broadcasters. So think about it. You are a broadcaster, let's say ESPN or Star Plus, and a match is going on, and you have to show these highlights immediately after the ball is pitched. It's almost impossible to do it with an editor manually, but this software can do it well, and the way it can scale is like crazy. Similar for your product, I think with so many people becoming sellers online and selling products, especially small businesses, they can really take advantage. One of the more interesting thing which is happening is the social commerce. So companies like there are not many social commerce companies. One of the only company right now is Roposo. So what happens on Roposo is that you go and you watch content, and then in the content there are products, accessories, apparels people can buy. In China, it's a really big market, and in 3 years, India is going to be one of the biggest market in terms of social streaming, social commerce, and live streaming sale. There's a person in China. He's called Mr. He's called Lipstick King. During the Singles Day sale, do you guys know about Singles Day sale? So Alibaba every year organize a Singles Day sale where they encourage single people to gift themselves. It's like it started as a joke and become really interesting. What is interesting about Singles Day sale is that during the 24 hours of Single Day sale, the amount of products which Alibaba is able to sell is more than the entire e-commerce transactions which happens across the world throughout the year. This guy, you won't believe, the Lipstick King, During the last Singles Day sale in November 2021, he sold lipsticks in 24 hours by live streaming. So he has a small studio and he live stream, he put lipstick on himself, talk about the shade and all, and he sell. Can you guess how much he sold in 24 hours online by streaming? Any wild guess? Sorry? Yeah. Uh, any more guesses? In terms of amount, how much he must have sold? $1 billion. One person with one small camera and a ring light sold $1 billion worth of product in 24 hours. That is the opportunity we have in front of us. We are 1.4 billion people. So today, even if the biggest recession come in the world, nothing's going to happen to India. Why? We are a consumer economy. I mean, think about Kerala as a state. There's so much requirement of food, clothing, healthcare. You don't need to sell outside, and you need these things. That's why in 2008 recession, the 2020 and 2021 COVID, which was one of the worst phases of our human life, of our existence, things went really smooth. In fact, during 2020 and 2021, the entire startup ecosystem in India has been the best since its inception, right? So my 2 cents on this is that what you're building is really interesting, um, and it will be really great when you grow. You let me know. I'll be more than happy to connect you to Amazon, Flipkart, and all the e-commerce players, and I'm sure it will be helpful for you. Great. Anyone else? You wanna share your story? What are you guys doing? What stage you are right now? One of the component of today's talk is corporate connect. So I'm just trying to play that role as well. Yes. Sure. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. I think today everyone's talking about ESG. That's one side of the story. Unfortunately, the other side of the story is there's a fake green marketing going on. So some of the largest corporates across the world, what they're doing is that they just claim that, oh, we are using sustainability and all. It's not really happening. And I'm not going to take name of the brands, but a lot of brands, what they do is that to offshoot their bad deeds. They just do like one, two good thing and they talk so much about it. But what is the challenge? Why large corporates are not able to move to a sustainable infrastructure? If you look at India, just as an example, unfortunately, what happens here is that to set up a large industry where you are going to generate a lot of pollution, the infrastructure has not changed in the last 100 years, which is your the entire burning process, your waste handling, your water recycling, and not a lot of innovation is happening in that field. So people are really concerned about how do I set up a plant, let's say a steel plant or a coal plant or a aluminium plant and steel plant, and make money from that by selling that product. But nobody's bothered about the process of doing that manufacturing. And unfortunately, the government of India does not really understand. I'm not sure why they don't. They also don't have norms on this. So for namesake on policy and papers, they talk about you need green license, you need fire license, this and that. But what is the reality? I don't know about industries in Kerala, but I see in North and East India, there are factories right in the middle of the city. No fire clearance. There's the smoke is going out every day. In Delhi, I don't know if you guys have been to Delhi, all of you. If you go to Ghaziabad, from Delhi to Ghaziabad, for the first time when I was going there, I saw on the right side there was like a hillock. I asked my friend, "What is this in the middle of the city? This hill? What is it doing?" He said, "It's the Delhi dump yard. The entire garbage is just stocked there for last like 50 years, and nothing is happening about it." When we talk about large industries where manufacturing is involved, there's a lot of pollution. So what I'm trying to say is that unfortunately there are very few startups who are able to build sustainable infrastructure to change the manufacturing process. So eventually the pollution is just no matter how many of us change our cars from normal fossil fuel to hybrid. I mean, it's going to have some impact, but the major contributor of this pollution in India is the factories and all the infrastructure. So here comes the another side of the story. So these are all challenges and all happening. Then there's a city in India called Indore. It's in Madhya Pradesh. It has been the cleanest city for the last 5 years, and I'm sure it's going to be this year as well. One of the cleanest city. What they did? is that they studied the model of Singapore and they came back to Indore and they created a 360-degree mechanism to get rid of waste. So first, they encouraged individuals like you and me to segregate waste at source. How do you do it? It's very difficult. They made a song, and this garbage truck will go in the morning across Indore, playing this song that the garbage truck is here, put down your trash and all, and he's reminding him to the people to segregate waste. Took them 2-3 years to do that, but eventually, if you go to Indore and you stay at someone's house, you'll see that they have different garbage bins to put different kind of waste, and it has become their life habit. Eventually, people from Indore, if they travel outside of Indore, they are very uncomfortable looking at people throwing garbage just like that, right? I was in Indore just a couple of weeks ago, and I could see how clean the place is, like unbelievable, right? First, they did segregation, waste segregation at source, number one. Number two, they went out to normal street side vendors who are producing a lot of waste. And they first requested them, encouraged them to not do waste. But when it was not happening, they put a rule that if there is garbage in front of a store, we are going to charge you 5,000 rupees for every 12 hours. As a small store owner, you can't afford to do that. So what they did, these store owners, they hired a person. First, they put multiple garbage bins, but people were still throwing here and there. Then they hired a person. The job of this person was to tell people to not throw waste anywhere, only throw it in the garbage bin. Number two. Number three, when you collect all these garbage, what do? They set up a world-class infrastructure in Indore where they burn the entire garbage, they make electricity from it, and the smoke before it releases, they recycle it. The remaining, waste is used as a fertilizer. So end-to-end garbage disposal. For plastics, they again segregate and they make plastic granules from that. From there, being one of the polluted city in the country, today it's the cleanest city for the last 5 years in a row. So it's not a beginner's luck. They are really doing it. If Indore can do it, why can't Delhi, replicate? Why can't Chennai replicate? And why can't other places replicate? So to answer your question, what I believe is that talking about sustainability and ESG is very important, but we also need startups who can help these large corporates, rather handhold them to adapt to a more business-friendly sustainability. You need to understand sustainability. I'm happy to pay a price for it, but I'm not happy to jeopardize my business because I want to adopt to sustainability. That's one point people forget about it, right? So I hope I was able to answer your question. Yeah. Yeah, great. Any more thoughts? Anyone? Yes. Great. Very, very nice. In fact, I want to share a personal experience on this. So please sit down. So during the COVID second wave, which happened in April 2021, a lot of people, uh, obviously they died, and a lot of people recovered, but they now have a lifelong injury. What happened is that because there was lack of oxygen, um, somehow people were able to get oxygen from here and there. So a lot of people got oxygen from vendors. These oxygen, this was not fit for consumption for medical purposes, but people had no choice. They made a makeshift arrangement, and what they did is that they started putting first distilled water and then started putting normal water, and they were not changing the water, and that led to black fungus. So a lot of people who got black fungus in India, it happened because of oxygen intoxication. Unfortunately, there's no plan to do it. So I think what you're doing is very interesting. If you can also think about creating a solution where uh, even in remotest area, people can get medical grade oxygen. I think that's going to be a really big, a $1 billion opportunity. People don't realize about it. I mean, all of us, fortunately, if you're lucky, if you have never been to a hospital for yourself or your family members, you don't understand the stress of a patient being on ventilator or being on oxygen. It's one of the worst things which you can experience. And again, very limited innovation is happening in that space. So all the best for your solution, and I'm sure it's going to be very interesting. Yeah. See, I'm not going to go. I'm not the right person to comment on government policies. There are a lot of challenges I can talk about, but I'll talk about more practical aspects. So there's a very famous game called Minecraft. I don't know if you've played it. So in Minecraft, there are two modes. One of them is called the survival mode, and one of them is called development mode or normal mode. In survival mode, you are always struggling to get food for yourself, get shelter, make sure that you don't die. And then in the normal mode, you are creative. You talk about art, culture, music, society, this and that. Unfortunately, we're still in the survival mode where we are struggling. Where people, I mean, I'm from Jharkhand, right? You won't believe even today, last year, a couple of people in my district where I'm from died of because they were not able to get food. Can you believe that you can't get food twice a day, even after there's so much subsidy and things were given? In my village where I'm from, people who are, I mean, they already have like multiple houses and they have cars and all. They apply for government subsidy of 2.5 lakh rupees, which is under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, where you can make a house. They have ration cards, which is supposed to be for below poverty line people. So unfortunately, with such a large country and so many things, first of all, as an entrepreneur, you have to stop your reliance on government. If you're expecting support from government, somehow your model is not sustainable, and you need to change that. It's not the best thing I should say, but I have personally experienced it. I know a lot of startups who are waiting for the last 1 year because one of the government grant was allocated to them. They're waiting the money to come, and they're wasting their growth because they were not able to grow without that funding. As a founder, if you're really making a great model, trust me, we are investors. We There are some companies where we have to chase the founder and request the founder, please take money from us, and the founder says, keep saying no, because the product is so powerful. Everyone knows that this company is going to be the next big thing. And as an investor, what do I need to do? I need to invest money in that company where I can get. So, how many of you have raised capital from professional VCs or angels? One, two, three. Okay. So, I'm sure you guys know, for the rest of you, as an investor, when you invest money in a startup, you get equity. That equity is not going to give you return like a typical investment where you have gold or real estate or mutual fund. You get like 5, 10, 20, 30%. In startup, you get returns in multipliers. Startup investors typically invest a multiplier of between 25 to 100x. So if I'm investing 1 crore, I want to get like 100 crore return. You might say, oh, that's too much. But to be honest, 100x multiplier is not like very uncommon. A lot of startups are giving more than 100x. Some of our portfolio companies, Bharat Pay, it gave 197x return, which means that if you invested 1 crore, when the exit offer is given to you, you will get 197 crore from your investment. So what I'm trying to say is that today in India, I have a lot of data points. I'll just share with you. All right. So, as I said, India is the third largest ecosystem. We have 300 plus unicorns. We have 100 plus unicorns, 665 active VCs. We have 9x increase in the number of investors from 2015 to 17. We have had the total combined valuation of Indian startups is $400 billion. There are 2,600 corporate investors, 6,000 angel investors. There is a 7x increase in the total funding of investors from 2015 to 17. 1 out of 10 unicorn across the world is born in India. There's a 26% increase in PE and VC investment. 100 unicorns have raised $90 billion together. And conversion of startup to unicorn is 66% year on year. Some of the funds who have invested money in India, Sequoia, Axel, Tiger, Y Combinator, Nexus, BNext, and many more. So what is happening is, as a good startup, people are going to run after you to put money. Now, what defines a good startup? It doesn't have to be a software or an app or an ERP or a SaaS. It doesn't have to be started by a IIM or IIT founder. You don't have to be a successful entrepreneur building your next company. If you are able to build something path breaking and it's really innovative, trust me, money is the last thing which you need to worry about. I'll give you, there are so many stories I can share with you. There's a company where we have invested. It's called Melora. Melora is a jewelry brand. It's for millennial young population. When they reached out to us for funding, we were doing their pitching session. So typically, we do a pitch event, and after that, we send interest to investors, and they put money. This presentation was for 15 minutes. And before we were able to in 15 minutes, the round was already closed. Investors were literally requesting us to let them allow to put money in that, but they were oversubscribed. They could not raise money. And there are so many other startups which I know where it has been oversubscribed. So coming back to the question, you, I mean, incentives and all of that, you need to definitely try and get more information. But as a startup, if you're building something in sustainability and if you believe that your product would be appreciated more in a geography outside of where you are, which can be outside of Kerala or which can be outside of India, I would recommend to start from that geography first and then come back to India. Because to be honest, again, India is a large behemoth, right? So many problems. While we can try and bring that change, but it's going to take a long while. So rather than waiting for that change to happen, you start being the change. Maybe in a different country. There are so many examples of people who have built really interesting solutions from India, but they got appreciation outside of India. There are two examples I want to share. One of them is the Lulu hypermarket. I mean, a beautiful story from Kerala. If you go to Dubai, you'll see them everywhere. And then the second story is an AC brand called Gree, Gree. Gree makes B2B air conditioning system for large malls and restaurants and buildings. They are one of the best AC brand in the world. You don't get it in India. It's not sold in India. I mean, you might get one or two here. The guy is from India and he built it for the world, and he's the most regarded person. So if your product you believe can be appreciated more in Europe, for example, European Union has already decided to stop all fossil fuel vehicle by 2030 or whatever. I'm not sure about the year. They are going to appreciate your product more in terms of if you're doing something in EV rather than in India where states are still struggling to give that incentive. I mean, you can't waste next 5 years to expect that one incentive to happen. Ideally, it should have happened. Government is trying a lot. Government is doing a lot of changes. But again, because of the sheer size of the economy and the country, there are more other problems which need to be solved immediately. I mean, think about it. Today, if government decide to phase out all fossil fuel vehicle, we always think about our cars, but that's just one part of it. The biggest part of it is the fleet which is on the road. We do not have an infrastructure today. It's impossible where we can replicate our fossil fuel with EV. I mean, if we, let's say, hypothetically, we are able to get all the trucks replaced by a EV vehicle. There's no electricity in India which can power those vehicles. So what is the point if you have an EV vehicle, but you are charging it with a generator using diesel? So that's the thing, right? Rather than government should invest more on setting up solar units, really large ones in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Bihar, Jharkhand, where there is so much sunlight coming almost 8 months in a year. It's not happening. Who's to blame? I don't know. Okay. Any more? Yes, please. Mhm. Sure, sure, absolutely. I think congratulations on this. I know this program. A couple of my friends have been winner. Ashwarya, she runs a company called Ollie. And Shruti, she runs a company called Anteshti. They have been part of these programs and they won last year or so, I guess. Um, Sorry? Okay. Very interesting. So, again, yeah, I would agree it's a gender agnostic domain. Everyone can be an entrepreneur. Everyone should be an entrepreneur. But there is data which indicate that there are very limited women participation in large startups. In fact, out of let's say 100% VC funded companies, less than 5% companies are women led. That has to change. But how do you do it? Unfortunately, the problem starts at the school level, where a girl is always encouraged to choose subjects which are more how do I say, not science oriented. I mean, they are appreciated if they go and do a medicine course. But if you ask how many women are learning coding and doing software development, very small. India is the number one software services company in the world. Our export reached almost $160 billion now. Out of that entire workforce, the women workforce is very marginal, right? Fortunately, I have had an opportunity to work on some of the initiatives with Google. I started a program called Women in Tech, where we encouraged women coding and women, working on softwares and stuff. That was a small initiative. There are some other people who are also trying to do some other thing. But what we need to do in order to promote entrepreneurship by women and making sure that women take leadership position in startups and all. We need to go back to academia, schools and colleges, and start educating at that level. A lot of girls don't even realize that what are the best career options for them. They are always determined by their parents or their peers, which tell them that doing coding is not fun because it's all male dominated. You're gonna get be the only girl, in that company. What are you gonna do there? Rather do something which there are more women. Do fashion designing or interior or makeup. Come on, don't. I mean, that's the stereotype we have as a women. You are really appreciated for doing a makeup brand, but I don't think that should be the regulation. I mean, more and more women have to be part of the mainstream, but it has to start from academia, number one. Then you need to definitely have programs where women co-founders or women founders can get more hand holding and support. uh, I think your program is one of them, so I encourage everyone to apply definitely for that. And the third thing which we need to do is that slowly and slowly we have to break this glass ceiling where uh, investors should invest in a company looking at the product and the proposition rather than if it's a male or female running the company. That's my thought. Great. Anyone else? Yes. Sure. Very, very interesting. Happy to speak. Let me know. Send me your deck. There are a couple of companies which are doing very interesting stuff in this domain. I met a company called Rikuti in Jabalpur. They are doing recruitment. Very interesting solution. They just partner with LinkedIn and all other. One of the interesting company which I really like is a person um, um, who's doing this. So he reached out to me very long back, like 6 years ago when he was starting this company. It's called Pesto. What Pesto has done is very interesting. Pesto um, look at a software developer who's already working at a company in India. Let's say he's getting a salary of 50,000 or 60,000 rupees. They take this person and they upskill them, and then they get them a remote job. So from 50,000 a month, you expect your salary to move to 2.5 lakhs a month, which is really interesting. I believe that that is a very interesting plug. You might want to look at that as well. For funding, please reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to connect you to my investment team. Okay. Do you have any B2B, B2G companies? Yes, please. Oh, nice. Thanks a lot. I think that's a good one. I really like the fact that you're not only talking about business, but you're also talking about how to improve this entire vertical. So I completely agree. Imagine if you're able to bring down the wash cycle from 15 to 8 minutes or 7 minutes, you're gonna save like millions of tons of water every year. Yeah, nice. Great. We can speak more about it. And good one, I think. Um, there's a lot of innovation happening. We have invested in two companies in the similar space. One of them is called Autobrick, where they do car wash without using water. So that's very interesting. You replace the entire water wastage. Second company we have invested is a company called Clensta. Clensta is one of the first and the only company in the world where they have created a water-free bath. You can take bath without water. Now you might say, why do you need to do it? Right? I also had the same expression. But think about people who live in Siachen Glacier. You can't take a bath for 6 months. Or you live in Antarctica. Or you live on space station. That's one segment. Submarine. The second segment is patients who are bedridden. They can't take bath. And they need to take bath. This is a really, really huge problem. And he's been able to solve it, Clensta. So I think water is one of the resources which we really take granted, but we should try to really work on more technologies. I mean, what I recommend for you is that you should definitely try and build hardware solution which can be retrofitted on existing machines, which can reduce both the wash cycle, consumption of water, and it can also become more sustainable. So I think it's a very interesting space you're working on. I'm sure you must know this data but for everyone else, India need 30 million nurses today. We don't have it, and we don't have the capability to make it even in the next 10 years. So what becomes very important is to have post surgery care at home, which currently is, I mean, there's only one company called Portia which is trying to do it, but it's very expensive. Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying that, I mean, they have become a big brand, right? Everyone knows about it, but they're not able to scale too much because it requires a lot of manual intervention and stuff like that. So I'm really surprised Why till today we don't have a startup which is a $1 billion company which provide support and care to elderly people? Because most of the young people are not staying with their parents. Like me, I'm traveling 22 days a month. I don't have time to go back home, even for small things. So I have hired 3 people. They manage all the things at my home. Luckily, I can afford them, but not everyone can afford it, right? And also, when you have a medical condition with your loved ones, your parents, a person can only provide a certain support. You need a medical professional who can support them. It's a really huge problem, and I'm not sure why we don't have a unicorn yet. So, what I believe is that number one, you need to create a solution where anyone can book a caregiver for their parents or anyone remotely by sitting anywhere in the world. Kerala is the best place because a lot of people are not in Kerala; they are in Middle East, right? And they can afford your service. So make it simple, number one. Make it popular so that people know about it, and make it so good in terms of service that people are going to recommend it again and again. If you do these 3 things, you can capture Kerala as a market. Then you go to Delhi, then you go to Maharashtra, then you scale. And then after that, again, interestingly, UAE, by the next 3 years, UAE is going to have at least 60% of their population who are going to be 65 and above. Right? It's an old country, going to be an old country, similar with Japan and other countries. And in all these countries, you need a lot of professional care. That's why you see a lot of people go to Middle East as a nurse and they get really paid well because there's a huge demand. So, I mean, what I recommend to you is that build this model in a very simple but in a very efficient way so that you can scale. So there are 3 things which you need to do. Number one, right now you can partner, but eventually you need to develop your own school of nursing where you can train a large workforce. So the way there's a very interesting company. I met the founder 2 months ago at an event in Patna, Bihar. So this gentleman is from Bihar. He started his company from Patna, which is today their last year revenue was around 10,000 crore. It's called SIS Securities. It's the largest security provider in the country. It's one of the biggest in the world. So they provide housekeeping and security. It's a very interesting story. In 1973, he used to work with Jayaprakash Narayan. Jayaprakash Narayan was a politician and he was fighting Indira Gandhi government at that time. So it's called JP movement. If you guys know politics, you would know this. He was a very ardent believer of JP Jayaprakash, and he used to work as a journalist and he used to write stories against the government that time. So he was arrested sometimes, and then he was asked to leave his job as a journalist. And that's when, with 5 rupees as seed funding, he started SIS Security, where he provided security to a small plant in Bihar. And then from there, they scaled. Today, they are in India, Australia, New Zealand, Middle East, and a lot of other countries. What they did, they realized that we need, let's say, 2 million security guards. And there's no infrastructure in the country to prepare 2 million security guards. In India, we don't have infrastructure to prepare 30 million nurses. Forget about that. We don't even have infrastructure to train 3 million nurses. So one of the biggest assets for you, also the biggest challenge for you is going to be the workforce. So you need to build a solution where you can have a state of the art technology, and it's a mix of hybrid plus online solution of training multiple people at the same time in a very short span. Number one. Number two, when you have these people, how do you make a very simple but a very powerful standard operating procedure? So you need to look at the model of McDonald's and KFC. So as a McDonald employee, you go to McDonald, you get like a 1 week on the job training, and then next week onwards, you can run the entire store on your own. Why? You know exactly that the fries need to be stored at minus 35 degrees Celsius. You take it out, thaw it for 5 minutes, put it in the fryer at this particular temperature for 2 minutes. Take it out, put salt, your French fries is ready. Similarly with patties and all of that. So yes. So one of the problem with India and a lot of food brands in India is that we can't scale because our processes are not defined. Like a biryani brand or a samosa brand or banana chips. I mean, when this startup came Beyond Snacks at Shark Tank, I met the founder before the shoot. He was very nervous because he can't speak Hindi, right? And the show is in Hindi. You're supposed to speak in Hindi. So he started saying that people make fun of me in Kerala. Because in Kerala, everyone loves banana chips and everyone eats banana chips, and there are like thousands of stores everywhere. People are saying that why you're making this a brand, who's going to buy it from you? When I can go to the next store and get fresh banana chips. And that's when He started his company in Mumbai so that people appreciate him and respect him. Today, his brand has become one of the most popular banana chips brand outside of Kerala. I'm not sure about Kerala, but what I'm trying to say is that he figured out that I need to do it in a market which really appreciate. Sorry, did someone say something? Huh. He's from Kerala, banana beyond snack. Yeah, I'm talking about Manas. So I saw that episode. I saw just like 5 episodes of Shark Tank. So I saw that episode where he was talking something and then he stopped, like he paused, and then the cut and back to Kerala. So he actually paused because he was not able to speak properly. I mean, he can't speak Hindi well. But what's so interesting, again coming back to your particular thing. So you start with workforce training. You do SOP, which is very crucial. A lot of brands from India are not able to scale because they don't have an SOP in place, right? And that's a big challenge. Um, I'm really impressed by the story of Sarvana Bhavan and this the Dindigul biryani. So I had this biryani 5 years ago in Chennai, and that time I figured out that this is going to be the next big thing, right? Today they have raised a large private equity round. That's their first round of funding. They're bootstrapped for so long. Now they are present in France, UK, so many other countries. In India, they're only in South India, not in North, but they have put a very subtle SOP in place which makes sure that their quality remains the same. One of the interesting story of how SOP can make you big is a friend of mine. His name is Binod and Sagar. They run a brand called Wow Momo. So they started with a really small 30,000 rupees funding with a small store in Kolkata. From there, they scaled and they made sure that so even today they own all their stores. It's not a franchise model, which means that they have complete control on their quality and the entire SOP. Today the company is 2,500 crore plus. It's going to be profitable soon and it will become big. That's second part which you need to work on. The third part is then when you have both these things, launch your service in a model which is B2B, B2G, and B2C, all three, where government hospitals and government programs can promote aftercare at home through your platform. You can partner with multiple governments initiatives to kind of take this up. Uh, let me just take this call for a second. Sorry, yeah. So that's the third part, where you can launch with all these three models. And I believe it should be a unicorn and you should work towards it. And we are all happy to support you. Thank you. Yes. No, absolutely. I think this is a common problem with everyone. People ask me, what is one skill which you want? If you are given a magic power, what you want to learn? I said, I want to be a computer programmer if I can. I mean, if I know computer programming, I can like solve so many problems. Unfortunately, you can't do it at this stage. So what I recommend is that you have to look for a co-founder who comes with that expertise. For example, my company Velocity One, where we help accelerators and angels to prepare their cohort for the next round of funding. One of the things which we do for them is we create a video pitch for them for the startup, which makes it really easy for them to raise. But I'm not an expert in that. So what I did is that we hired, not hired, but we partnered with a person who's now our like co-founder. He comes with like 10 years of experience. He has done a lot of TV shows. So he understand video in and out, everything. Now this person takes care of the entire video thing. My job is to get large clients and then they deliver. Similarly, you need to hire a co-founder. A lot of startups in India have done the same way where they have a tech co-founder who can really understand the architecture. For example, Flipkart, when the Flipkart started, initially their entire infrastructure was designed by Amit Malviya. Amit Malviya, right now, he runs a company called Udan. It's a B2B platform. But Amit designed everything from scratch for Flipkart. And I mean, when they did the first Big Billion Day, the entire website crashed, the app crashed. It was not able to work for next 30 minutes. But then slowly, they scaled. Today, they're able to handle any kind of traffic, right? And Sachin is not a coder, or Binny is not a coder. It was Amit who did it, right? And that's true for all the large tech companies that you see. So the best and the only solution I believe for you is to have a tech co-founder. Yeah, I'm one of them, right? But it's not good. In long term, when you are scaling up and you're raising capital from professional investors, because my company doesn't need investment, so I don't need to worry about it. But when you're building a product, you need to have 100% time commitment to that company. You can't do anything else. Investors would never agree, and also you won't be able to make that business really big. So what I recommend is that I understand we have certain requirements and certain commitments. So keep on doing till the time you're able to devote time so that the second product, which is going to be your main product, can go to a level where it will start generating some revenue, or save some money so that for the next 12 to 18 months you can survive on your savings, and then put all your efforts into building the main company which you want to build. Which is the main company, that you need to decide. um, that's the only way. Investors would not agree that you're working on something else as well. I mean, you can sell it and then build the next company. So many people are doing it. Yeah. Yes. Sure. I mean, you let me know. Yeah. What is it made of? Okay. Very, very interesting. Again, there's a company where I'm helping them. It's called Rao Industries. They have made a paver block from plastic waste. So it looks like a concrete block, but it's actually mix of concrete and plastic. So very interesting. I think for this kind of product, you need to find one large client which can take it up, and so that once they sell it, once they take it from you, you can then use that branding for like long term impact. So try and find that one large client. If you have anyone in mind, you let me know. I'll try and connect you to them. It's not recycle, but when you're building it for the first time, are you using recycled plastic or new plastic? 100% recycle. Good, very interesting. You let me know. If you have any client in mind you want to work with, I'll be happy to connect with them. Okay. Yes. Okay. Interesting one. Again, I'll share a story. So I have a friend Prashant. He's from Siliguri near Darjeeling. Um, he's an interior designer. He does interior for large buildings projects and all. That's his main business. He was once doing interior for the CM of Sikkim, Pawan Chamling. So his CM's wife, he's a big lover of orchid, and Sikkim is one of the places where you have a lot of orchid, right? So he saw that there were a lot of orchid plants which were like really blooming well. So he asked the lady how to cultivate, how to do like uh, I mean, create it in such a way that it can also be grown in hot places. She did not share the secret with him. So what he did is that he went on his own and he did a lot of research. He invested around 12 crore. You'll be surprised to know that today he runs the largest orchid garden in the country, and he sell across the country. And what is interesting is that his orchid can survive even in Kerala. So you can bring that orchid, put it here, and it will be like okay on its own. And he sell it online, send it through courier. Their annual revenue is 15 crore every year, all bootstrapped. So plant is a really big market. Again, there's only one company which has been able to do something a little similar, is Ferns and Petal, but there's no company today which is a D2C plant company. I mean, you should be that first one. If people can buy speakers and headphones online, if people can buy watches online, why not plants? People love plants. I mean, I have zero understanding, but my mom is like, she loves plants. My entire terrace is full of plants. Like, I don't know how many plants we have. If she get to see your website, she's going to keep placing order every day. And there are so many people like my mom who are really happy to spend money on buying good quality plant. One of the biggest challenge with plant owners is that, like pets, when you have to travel, who's going to take care of your plants? You should definitely build a solution where you can create an affordable IoT solution to put water on time every day. Nobody has done this so far. If you do it, it's going to be another next big thing. So I think you should work on that too. All the best. Yes. Any more? Yes. Any more questions? Yes. Yes. Not in the current form. It is going to be success. It's actually the natural progression. We are going to go there, even if you don't like it. So I'm sure how you know how the internet works. We started with Internet One, which was basic websites, like all these flashy images and all. Then we went to Web 2.0, which is currently social media applications. Web 3.0 is where, for the first time in the human history, you and me would be able to own the part of the internet. Right now, we don't own anything on internet except your domain name. Is there anything else which you own on internet? Nothing. Your content is not your own. Your Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook is not your own. Nothing is there on internet which you can own, right? But imagine tomorrow what's going to happen is the Web 3.0. There's going to be decentralization of internet. That's why NFTs are so important. So what's going to happen? I'll share a very interesting story again. I had a call just 3 days ago with a founder. He has built an online auction platform of Web 3.0 where you can buy and sell art, real art. So from artists like Raja Ravi Verma to MF Hussain. So he has partnered with art galleries across the country. He's going to create NFT of those art pieces, and you as a customer can buy. You can have fractional ownership of that art. So let's say you buy a painting which is like $10 million. Tomorrow somebody else is going to come and buy it for like 15 or $20 million. If you have taken 10% of the $10 million, you're going to get your increase on that. This is a very simple way of explaining how NFTs will work. Web 3.0, what is going to happen is that eventually when the headset technology will evolve, where you don't have to wear a headset, a simple glass can do. In fact, one of the founder from Kerala is doing really Rohil Dev. He has built a company called Nemo, which is a very interesting glass where you can actually use virtual reality content. Why if Web3 is going to be big is because a lot of people are spending a lot of time on social media, and typical social media is not going to scale more from here. It's saturated, right? So people want to really have a virtual experience where they can. I mean, it's very interesting right now. As I said, why I'm saying it, because it's not going to be the same way, because a lot of technology is still at a very early stage. But eventually, what's going to happen? We are going to have this session in a metaverse, and we feel as if we are sitting in the same hall together. And why it's important? Because you don't need to travel anywhere. You can do it wherever you are without having to lose on the experience, right? And when you do large conferences and events in metaverse, that's where you need NFTs to buy virtual accessories, merchandise, to buy virtual gifts, and to buy multiple things. Imagine if you're spending 3 hours in a metaverse and you see Nike advertisement multiple places in that particular event, the chances are that you buying a Nike shoe increases multiple times. And that's why already large brands like Nike, Adidas, they're all buying land on the virtual metaverse, across various metaverses. So there are going to be multiple metaverses, and people are going to be part of all of those. It's like Facebook and Instagram and all of that. So I'm not an expert. I don't comment too much on that, but this is my limited understanding. But it's going to happen. Uh, if you are able to be part of this at an early stage, obviously you're going to make a lot of money. Imagine people who started the Board Ape Yacht Club. Yesterday, one of the NFT was sold for like $30 million. I know it's stupid, but not for people who are buying it. Yes. No, one of the biggest reason why people raise money from professional investors, good ones, is the alumni network. It's like going to an Ivy League college. If you raise money from Tiger or Sequoia or Matrix, you get access to their entire alumni database. You are able to work with them, partner with them, cross sell and cross promote with them. So that becomes a very important part. And yeah, I mean, you definitely get a lot of support from your VC, your investors, because once they invest money in you, it's more of their responsibility to make sure that you grow, because they have to get more money on your company. I mean, they need to get return. So they are going to open up the entire network. For example, we at Venture Catalyst, what we do is that we have now we have 300 plus portfolio companies, and within these 300 companies there are so many opportunities where they can collaborate with each other. So we always facilitate these sessions and meetings where companies can work with each other. In fact, we have developed a in-house technology. So if you go to Y Combinator, they have an internal social media platform for all their alumni from all the batches. So you will become a part of that, and you'll be able to see what's happening there and things like that. So similarly, we have created a platform where all our portfolio companies are listed and they can go out and seek help. So when you raise money from professional investors, I mean, you get all the support along with the alumni connect. No, eventually, if you want to grow as a startup, you need to have professional investors. Uh, you can grow on your own as well, but this growth is going to be very slow. Professional investors come, they give you this boost to scale your operations, launch into multiple geographies, refine and redefine your technology and your solutions. I think it's always important. One other thing which I would like to recommend anyone who's working on blockchain, one of the biggest problem which should be solved using blockchain, nobody is working on it, is digitizing the land records. But are you able to implement it at any government? So today, one of the biggest challenge in India in litigation is the land dispute. Almost every state has land dispute. Technology is not a problem. You have to convince the government to use it. I can get it built in 15 days, the best technology. But will you be able to get the Kerala government to get into that? So what I'm trying to say is that if you're working on that, try and find like-minded people who can influence some good bureaucrats who can at least give you a pilot opportunity, right? It's gonna be. I mean, imagine the amount of money which is wasted on litigation of land disputes is crazy. One single technology can change all of it. But the problem is that a lot of people would not want this to happen because if it's streamlined, you lose billions of dollars. But eventually, it has to be solved, right? Anyways, any few last questions? Yes. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure, please. So impact investment has two part of it. One of them is impact investment in not-for-profit and impact investment in for-profit companies. I'm always with for-profit companies, right? I'm a capitalist, right? But I mean, one of the misconception is people think that only if you're an NGO, you're a not-for-profit company or you're a impact company. I believe one of the biggest social companies in India are Swiggy, Zomato, Uber, and Ola. How many people they're employing? Millions. Even if you're the best NGO in the country, you might be able to employ, let's say, like 1 lakh people. So I'm not commenting on your company structure. What I'm trying to say is that try and see if you can have a for-profit social enterprise. If you do that, raising capital is going to become very easy because even the largest of the impact investors are comfortable putting money in a private limited company where uh, you can grow and you can become sustainable because you cannot survive forever on grants as a Section 8 company. You're always dependent on grants and donations and things like that. And you can't solve a large world problem by doing it. So I believe that this can be done really well in a for-profit model. I mean, I know a organization Isaac. It's a student organization, Isaac. What they do is that they provide international internship to students. And if you become an Isaac member, your chances of getting into a really good college across the world or getting a really good job becomes very high. Because at a very early stage you get exposure. Similarly, it's not a popular concept in India, but in US and Europe, a lot of young people go for mandatory impact training or mandatory NGO training. They spend time in Africa, India, Bangladesh, and they work there. And then they use that experience to get a job in BCG and Deloitte, where they're selling commodities and bonds, right? But social impact doesn't mean that you cannot make money. You should make money. I'll tell you another story. There's a startup called Tom's. They make shoes. For every pair of shoes they sell, they donate one pair of shoe to a kid who has never seen shoes in his life. I mean, I would call it a social enterprise. It's the best one. And I believe that as a social enterprise, it's more important for you to make more money so that you can have bigger impact. Because as a person who's struggling with finances cannot be a philanthropist. Only a billionaire can spend money, right? That's my philosophy. I might be wrong into it. But what I'm trying to say is that try and build a model which is sustainable for a long term. Because if you want to impact, let's say, 5 million people who can go and become part of NGO, you need infrastructure, technology, manpower to scale. And for all of that, you need a lot of money and multiple rounds of money. So maybe for 1 or 2 rounds, you get impact investment, but eventually you need private professional VCs to come and put money in your company. In India, if you need to raise capital, you have to have a private limited company. You cannot raise in Section 8. Legally, it's impossible. Legally, it's impossible. You can't raise. You can only get grants and donations in Section 8. You cannot get a equity investment. You can have two companies. You can have a private limited company and a foundation. And the foundation can be a Section 8, but your private limited will be a for-profit, which will help you grow. You can get money from VCs in private limited. You can get grants in Section 8. I don't think I can mention in public, so. Ashneer is a very good friend. In fact, I got all the sharks. That was one of my most important responsibility to get the sharks. So the idea was to get people who can really give you good feedback as an investor, and they can mentor you, invest. Uh, Ashneer is the most popular shark even today. But why do you like him? If you don't like him, then you should not like him. But then you should not have problem with him humiliating people. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. Cigarette is bad. Everyone smokes, right? Alcohol is bad. Everyone drinks, right? In a large democracy, Unfortunately, you cannot be politically correct every time. So you have to also look at what the majority wants. You know, in India, what is the number one TV show in terms of TRP in Hindi? Sorry, I'm in Kerala. Huh? It's Nagin, one of the worst show on planet, and that has been number one for the last many years. Why is that? You have to ask yourself the question. I don't have a TV, so I'm not gonna be responsible for that. It's a democracy. What to do? It's not only India. In all the countries, you have these really stupid shows and all. But if people want it, it's okay. I mean, think about that particular startup which came, the naval startup, right? The Goal Navi thing. It was so like funny, but people talk about it, right? You talk about it, everyone talks about it. So again, as an entertainment company or a media company, you want people to talk about things, a lot of things. But again, I don't think I need to share anything in public on that. Sorry. Yeah, all good. Good.